right, I'm just gonna start playing the music, so it just.
Crack spider. Nice web, Mr. Crack Spider.
C, the active ingredient in marijuana.
Nice web,
THC,
Mr. Crack Spider.
the active ingredient
Nice
in
web,
marijuana.
Mr. Crack Spider. Nice spider's behavior was. The web structure was not affected, but the spider's behavior was. The spider's behavior was. The web structure was not affected.
All right,
It built a hammock.
we are live
Spider didn't
on YouTube
build-
now. Yay, everything's working. Good. Let me get the chat up just in case.
It built a hammock. The
Spider built a hammock.
It built a hammock.
Okay,
The spider
we're live. Hey guys,
Hey.
Howdy.
we have
Howdy.
Heather Taddy. This is a redo. So, yep, we're live. We're actually live. So this isn't not live. Yay.
Live. Not live. It's
Not live. This is
Opposite
live.
of not live is happening now.
Yep, this is true, and we live in your minds. We got Gordon Hamil with us, joining us today.
Howdy, gang.
Good to see you, buddy.
You too, bud.
So,
Good to
yep,
be seen.
isn't it? It's beautiful to be seen. So, Heather, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful.
Yeah, it looks beautiful where you are.
It's very sunny. I got the sun coming in here. It was like upper 60s today. Feeling good.
Can't beat that.
Yeah.
Can't
It's
beat
supposed to
that.
snow tomorrow. So
Same. Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
no.
Jim, how's it going with you, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm
Yeah?
good. I'm a little bit
Eventful.
out of breath from chasing a dog down the street that got out of my front door, but I'm glad I made it.
Right? We're good to go. So we're gonna talk. We tried to do this. What was it, last Thursday, and everything just kind of hit the fan at once. Like how the channel got struck, and that's how we found out and all that. So, yay! Now we're good, and everything is all on the up and up. So that's all that matters. But
Everything is right in the world.
everything is right in the world for the moment.
Yeah.
For the moment. So not or guilty for Derek Chauvin. Yay, good. Okay. Anyway, that just happened too. So-
Imagine if that
Is that
did.
what-
yeah, imagine if it was not guilty or like something. I mean, holy
Yeah. I don't want to think about that.
no. Because firebombs will be flying through all of our windows within 5 to 20 minutes, but that's okay. But yeah, so we were going to talk about your appearances on the Portals to Hell show
Yeah.
on Discovery as of late. If you want, just really quick, give people who don't know you a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay. A little bit of background
mind?
about me. So I was on I've always been into the paranormal, into aliens and anything weird. But my journey with this kind of started in college when I went to Penn State. I joined a paranormal club that was backed by Penn State University. And right when I joined, they had been in the process of working with A&E Network to create a reality show where they follow this club around to clients' houses, all over the US and help them with their haunted houses, basically. So I joined and I trained to become an investigator, and then it turned into this crazy show. I went to a casting call. Like, it was just kind of like, I was really focused on college at the time, and I didn't really think that this would become anything, but it became a huge show called Paranormal State. And I spent years traveling the country and helping people that had haunted houses, hanging out in their creepy basements. The stories are endless. So from there, I 2 years ago, I did a show for the Travel Channel called Alien Highway. And it was a little different. I was outside, looking for proof of UFOs, working mostly in the West and Midwest areas where, cattle ranchers had strange animal mutilations that they couldn't explain. And people were just seeing strange lights in the sky they couldn't explain. A perfect example, Sedona, Arizona. That was one of the episodes we did. So then from there, I got asked to guest star in a couple episodes of Portals to Hell, which my best friend Katrina is on that show. And of course, Jack Osborne. And I was on 4 episodes of that. 2 of them have aired already, and then there's 2 more in May. And it was pretty fun. We got some really unusual activity, and we got to go to some cool places. So, and one of the episodes I'm going to talk about tonight is the Stevenson Building episode, which you guys got to watch.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
It's absolutely ridiculous. This place is like Wymore, Nebraska, in the middle of just like flatland, flyover country.
Is this the most recent one? Is this
No,
the
that
one
was Penhurst,
Bottom?
but this Pease Bottom though. This is yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Crazy, right? A clown in a cage wrapped up. A clown in a box wrapped up.
But I mean, like, okay, going into it, it's literally like it's so off the off the beaten path. I don't even know how I wonder. Do you by chance know how production found the location, or I'm curious. I was just wondering.
I don't, because this building really no one has investigated for TV yet. I'm not really sure how they found it, but one thing they left out of the episode is there's an extremely dark history with the KKK. They had their meetings in this building. They had lynchings right outside the building, and there were underground tunnels. Like it's just layers and layers of like the darkest history. There used to be, I know they didn't mention this in the episode, but there used to be like an orphan train that would roll through the town and like pick up and drop off orphans. It's just like really nasty stuff. And then where am I going with this? I'm trying to give you more like detailed history. Basically, there's a lot of stuff about the history of the building that wasn't included in the episode because there was so much. Okay. Like it used to be a brothel, a dance hall, a pool hall. There were underground tunnels that are now closed that led through different buildings in the town. And, you know, men would bring the prostitutes through, prohibition hit, just like all this crazy stuff.
Capone was known to hang out there. It's one of those. Yeah.
Mob activity. It's just everything you can think of that's evil and just into one building. So, and the building was like falling apart. There were times when I thought the floors were going to like cave in. It was that bad.
Yeah. It looked super grimy. It looked like, it reminded me of, and I'll say it like Deadwood. It reminded me like a building out of Deadwood. Like it just, the upstairs at least did. It just was like closed, like gross looking windows, just everything.
That hallway.
That long
right away,
hallway.
I was like, that hallway. And that's the hallway where I heard that voice. It sounded like it was like right next to me. So
yeah. And that I think that was caught on camera too. Like it wasn't caught as loud as you'd expect, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, that's right up in your shit. So I mean,
yeah, when that happens, I was just like, Jack, did you say something to me? Like it was just so bizarre. But
all right, so like going into that episode though, there's some crazy stuff that happens basically where you guys bring in a psychic medium who specializes in psychometry. Mm-hmm. Tyler, I can't remember what his last name is.
Tyler Evans.
Tyler Evans, that's it. This dude was fascinating to me. And
he was so intense.
He was very intense. Yeah.
Nailed a ton of like, I mean, there's okay, so like what is the first floor? It wasn't the first floor where the owner of the building, they took it over. Should give it a little background there where the owner, yeah. So go ahead if you want.
So the owner, Brian, really into the paranormal. He has his own paranormal group. He bought the building knowing that it was haunted. And his ultimate goal with it was to remodel it for paranormal investigators to come and have investigations. But he also wanted to use the building as sort of a museum to store his oddities. And he obsessively collects haunted objects from other haunted places. And it kind of became an obsession where he kept bringing in these objects. And then he would use them in his investigations and kind of taunt whatever, he basically used these objects, negative things would happen, and then he'd taunt it to provoke more activity. And it kind of seemed like he didn't want the activity to stop. I mean, it was getting so negative that people were getting scratched, leaving with scratches. And I feel like he just kind of didn't know what he was doing. He'd get these objects with this dark history. He'd hear a story about them and then give so much recognition to these objects that this activity would happen. And he would just keep bringing in more objects.
It was almost like catching a whole bunch of bees in a jar and then shaking the jar up and then just cracking the jar open to see what would happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Good analogy.
Mm-hmm. It was rough, dude. Like, I guess we can start with what really creeped me out the most, and then Jim, if you want to, it's probably honestly the well, there's sigils, there's all kinds of nonsense when you first walk in with the the group, the crew or whatever, and you see like what an exorcist kit behind a glass case.
Right.
What's
Was
up?
he had this, he wanted to have like a dichotomy between good and evil, so he had like a satanic Bible and a dagger that was used in ritual, and then across the display case from it was a exorcism kit, sort of
Right. It wasn't
So-
there's
water and a crucifix and a Bible in a little case. And
So I haven't seen this.
yeah, and the psychic was
You're probably like,
"Whoa."
what are they talking about?
Right.
No, it just sounds like the most dangerous thing I could possibly imagine. Like, I'm going to create a tornado in a house.
yeah, right.
And
That's
you see
great.
this, you see this all the time. Like paranormal groups will buy haunted objects off of the internet, and then
Why?
they'll use them in their investigations and not really know what they're doing. And if you get objects that have a negative history, that negative people poured negative things into it, such as like items used in occult rituals, like that's like the heavy duty stuff where it's like that is carrying some kind of like spiritual attachment.
It's charged.
Yeah. And then you bring that into this place that has all of this insanely dark history. It's just not, it's like you're putting more fuel on the fire, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what Gordon, that's exactly what's going on in this episode. I mean, it's like, well, and the owner Brian seems to have like a more of a nonchalant attitude, like, well, I just didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, like, well, you look at what I mean, okay, so let's get to Mr. Peasbottom.
Okay, yeah.
Peasbottom. This is insanity. Like, this doll comes from
Concentration camp.
a concentration camp, war-torn Germany, wherever. I don't know exactly which concentration, what camp. No joke. Heather, do you want to elaborate
Sure,
a little bit
yeah,
on this?
so-
This is wild, dude.
It's this really creepy doll. It's this little clown doll that's like hanging on this little hook, and then it's secured in this box, and then there's chains wrapped around it. It's just the creepiest thing you could ever imagine. And the guy bought it from this guy that has all these hookups with all these haunted objects, and it came with this really elaborate story where it was made in a German concentration camp, and then someone gave it to someone as a birthday gift, and then the people that left the party died in a car crash. It's just like this endless story that could have just been created or whatever. But ever since they brought it into the Oddities Museum, they noticed an increase in activity, and it kind of turned from residual to intelligent. So they knew that, but they would use it in their investigations, and they actually played us this really compelling EVP where you hear a little kid's voice go, "I'm stuck in this box." You have to see the episode.
Yeah, and it's one of those EVPs that it's like it's putting on a show for you. It's literally like,
I'm stuck in
like
this box.
I'm stuck in this box. Like, it's so
That's not creepy at all.
it's so animated and it's so crystal clear. Like, you can't. It's like, what is going on here now? When people like, and that was one of the things you were saying, like residual, maybe, and we don't know that all these things are necessarily true, but it doesn't really matter if we know if they're true or not. People have fed the belief. It's the tulpa thing. It's
I was just going to say that.
yeah, it's the egregore. It's like, it doesn't matter if we believe it, they believe it. And you keep feeding that, you feed it. It grows into its own monster.
It's like a perfect example, as everybody knows about the haunted Annabelle doll. These girls gave this doll so much recognition so it's the same thing this Brian guy was going
Slender
through.
Man, same thing.
Yeah. Thought forms. And
Or what's the one in Florida? The Bill. What's the little
Robert the doll.
Robert.
Robert the
Yeah,
doll.
that's
it.
actually what Chucky was based off of, I think. I think that doll gave them the inspiration for Child's Play.
Man,
Creepy.
my buddy.
So creepy.
And my buddy and
Kid
What you're
sis-
saying,
kid
what you're
sister.
saying, David, is real though. I mean, it doesn't matter if somebody believes it or not. If somebody, or if it's true or not, if somebody believes it, it's giving that thing power. It's how politics work.
Exactly. And I mean, it's a psycho. I mean, there's been so many studies done on it. It's insane. Man, there's so many things I could cite right now to go for people to look up. But yeah, it's basic. It's just basic.
Topa thought form.
Yeah, thought form, egregore. It
Yeah.
all works the same way.
All the same thing.
Yeah. But
There
it's
was
fat-
another. Oh, sorry. In the
No, go
other, the Penhurst case, I watched that one last night, and
the Penhurst.
Penhurst, yeah, the Penhurst,
Yeah.
and there was a non-human entity they were talking about, sort of large, evil, sort of dark, non-human.
Baphomet sort of something.
Mhm.
That was using these
Shells.
like,
Yep.
using them puppeting these like sort of ghost printed areas and using those to maybe suck the fear out of humans. And I kind of felt like that something like that was going on with that Mr. Peacebottom.
Yeah.
When I first watched it, I was like, it feels like something else has gotten into that, or is piggybacking itself through that creepy little clown doll to harvest the emotional fear energy.
Right. It's like a fragmentation thing.
Yeah. And one of the main objects that the psychic kind of gravitated towards was the exorcism kit that was from the 1930s. He picked up that it was used by somebody that didn't have enough experience to perform an exorcism. And, if you watch the episode, you'll see the psychic kind of like taking on energy from that, where it seems like someone's giving him an exorcism in a way. But
He wanted to vomit, he said.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just like such a weird, like you could see my face, like I'm just like filming him and then he's leaning over like a church pew.
Like retching.
Like, yeah. It was
Literally,
very
like
awkward
what?
moment.
And I mean, there's a lot. Okay. Like, and a lot of people, I've watched these shows for a long time, whatever. I can't really watch them that much anymore, but this is actually good. Like Portal to Hell is good. I can actually watch it. So, I mean, the thing is like, there's so much, stage. It's just saturated with not, we've talked about it before. Everybody knows it, Travel Channel's turned into, it's, like the Haunted Channel or whatever. But basically there's always some, friggin' in the riggin', some acting, some extra whatever here and there with a lot of the production. But I didn't get that vibe with the psychic medium Tyler, and at all, honestly. Like I didn't feel like, oh, I'm gonna turn this off. This makes me feel uncomfortable because this dude's just just being hamming it up for the camera. It didn't feel like that at all when he was like retching, kind of like the dude felt 100% legit. I feel like I'm a good read of character. Jim, I don't know, do you feel the same way? Like,
Oh yeah. Me and my girlfriend kind of got obsessed with your show.
Oh,
After
yeah.
your episode, we watched like all of season 2, like back to back, and then
It's good.
it is a good show, and it felt like really believable. And what I really liked is that it's not. I mean, other ghost shows, they're like stir things up, like they go into a
Provoke.
place where stuff, yeah, and they provoke. They say, you come in and poke me, I'll be here, and they yell and like. After we watched some of your shows, another ghost show came on in the queue after that, and we watched a couple episodes, and they were going to real aggressive hauntings, and they were really poking the bear.
Yeah.
And I fell asleep, and I was having like these really awful like nightmares, and
Really?
and I woke up, and the cat was even acting weird, like this cat that it was like crying and like hopped up on my lap and like wanted to be held, which is totally unlike this cat. Like the cat was like, I almost feel like watching it, you can almost get haunted by stuff, sometimes coming through the TV or something, or maybe it's like it resonates.
That's an interesting theory. I don't know that I've actually, I mean, I've thought about that, but I don't know that there could be something to it.
Maybe you're creating your own
There you
egregore
go.
in your house
That could have
There you
been.
by giving it the attention.
Good point.
Yep. And do you think, Heather, have you ever come across anything like that where you've seen anything where not necessarily, well, I don't know, maybe viewing something through, because if you think about it, all right, you know, we have the 60 hertz flicker rate, which puts you into a trance. We know this is true. I mean, if it's admitted, all the subliminal, everything that's implanting all kinds of things, because obviously, you know, we fall into trance when we're watching these sorts of things. I'm curious to know if you know of any research. I know this is kind of just totally left field, but I wonder if there has been much research. There has to have been much research done on this specifically, I'm sure, by ad agencies, marketing, the 5,500 data points they've got on us from Palantir, Facebook, and Cambridge Analytica and all that bullshit. All that aside, though, I'm saying, like, there's got to be something to that. I would imagine, especially in an area that would maybe have higher readings of, you know, EMF. So maybe, I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like, thought experiment, I guess.
I had a strange experience one time with something like that. I heard about this program. It was called After School Satan. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, you know, it was like a freedom of religion sort of thing where they were, you know, introducing Satanism to high school kids. And so I looked it up, you know, on the internet.
Great idea.
Had like a music video or like a commercial. It was like a short little, like 30-second commercial for it. And it was all this, it was like kind of jarring music and like real like flashy like cuts and jumps. And it was like sort of artistic, you know, but it was like almost felt subliminal. And then like after I watched it, I got into an argument with somebody at work. Like, and I was like really like all of a sudden I was real aggressive and pissed off. And then I was like, whoa, I wonder if I got influenced in some kind of way from watching this into like, you know, sort of being on the edge.
All aggro, yeah.
Subliminal messages.
Yeah, is what it felt like.
So Heather, you were in the room. How did you feel about it after it was done and like you had an opportunity to like analyze it? What did you think?
You mean just being in the building?
Yeah.
Overall, I would say, I mean, I definitely thought that it was haunted, but I think a lot of it was focused on the owner because he kind of became very obsessed with the building, always wanting to be there, always wanting to bring in these objects and always wanting to investigate. And he kind of got a kick out of like the negative activity that would happen. He liked it. And it kind of seemed like he didn't want it to stop. But I mean, like I said, the building was like over 100 years old and there were just so many negative things that happened there that contributing to all the haunted objects. And then the owner kind of leading down that path of like oppression, where if he would have kept going with this and didn't resolve the trauma in his own life, it would have just blown up in his face. He would have got really bad. I kind of rambled there, but
no,
kind of get the
that's
point.
an interesting point though. Like,
yeah,
the trauma thing. I wonder if he's masking that by focusing on that stuff instead of dealing with his own stuff. And
yeah. So
himself, he uses it as like a buffer for him
circumventing.
not analyze his own bullshit.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, just going into people's, you know, homes and their haunted houses and you know, for the paranormal club I was in, we would do these like really extensive interviews where we're basically like their personal historian, because there's a lot of events in life like unresolved trauma that can lead to these things to happen. And you could be projecting, you know, psychokinetically projecting these things to happen. And it's just all energy, really. So that was something, you know, I think he was an EMT and a police officer they constantly would
Mm.
see tragedy, and then he had his own unresolved trauma that was kind of built up. So it made him very vulnerable to being in this negative spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
like it.
rough, man. Ugh. It just stirring all that up, and then people do get obsessed with this stuff. I mean, like, look at, oh man, it's like, I'm not going to bring up certain things, but that's okay. We'll just leave that alone. But let's touch a little bit on Penhurst, because that place is crazy. I remember just like being moved to tears the first time I heard about that place, and seeing Geraldo doing a documentary in like the 70s on it.
Yeah.
And it like, he busted that place out. It's basically, and the atrocities that were going on there with such, Dr. Fear. Dude's name was Dr. Jesse.
That's the first
Fear.
sign that something's not right.
Yeah, seriously, dude. That's like Dr. Kaufman. Like, come on, guys, get it together. Like, it's always
There's
these
so much
people.
truth in a name.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess I'll go into like a little background of Penhurst. So it was a institution kind of outside of Philadelphia where it used to be called, like, what was it called? It was originally opened in 1908. It was originally called the Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. Basically, people with developmental disabilities, even people with like Down syndrome, they were kind of taken out of society and put into Penhurst. And eventually, they wanted to segregate the mentally disabled from the general population. And the building became very overcrowded. People were mistreated. There was an expose done in like the late 60s where I think it was CBS. They came in and they kind of like exposed the conditions of it. And you just see this horrible footage of like these kids tied to these beds, and this room is just filled with beds. Some people are on the floor, it's like, it's really, really horrible. But
human excrement flies around it's just, it is absolutely like the most foul conditions you can possibly fathom.
It was called Suffer the Little Children. And
the document. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And one of the quotes, I wrote this down because it's just so awful. One of the quotes from the documentary was like, "Forget them while they decay from neglect." And it basically just led to like a massive lawsuit. And before that documentary, there were like a lot of different articles written to like expose the conditions, but then like nothing was done to fix things until this documentary came out. But there was a doctor there named Dr. Fear. And there's like an interview with him in this documentary where he's basically talking about how he would just drug the patients if they misbehaved, and they would get a dentist to pull out their teeth if they bit people.
And damn well this place was tied in with had to have been with Dr. Cant Ewan Cameron and Jolly and West, all those pieces of human scum that were behind MK Ultra, Naomi, all of that. Damn well Penhurst was one of the proving grounds, I'd imagine, for all that sick research.
We know they did because they did it in the hospitals in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron did it. Yep.
They actually have the lawsuits to prove.
Yeah, the psychic driving, all of that going on up there. Can you imagine at the degree they were pushing it to in Penhurst, like on top of the conditions? Like, holy dude! It is just,
you can just feel like, this was my third time there, and you can just feel like places like that. It just feels like the people are like trapped there. Like, you don't feel alone. Like, for example, when we had the little gathering in the episode when we each told our story about experiences there, they kind of cut mine off, but I went with this researcher named Debbie Constantino, and she was like considered to be an EVP specialist. And there's some buildings on the property that are open, some they tore down, and there's some that are just locked, but the windows are kind of bashed out. And we took a recorder, put it into the window for like 2 minutes, played it back, and there were all of these voices, like people incoherently trying to speak. And just this place, every time I've been there, I've had activity. But one of the first times I went there, we went into a building and the guy unlocked it for us. I think it might have been the Mayflower or like the Quaker building, one of the two. But we walked in and it just felt like you could hear somebody shuffling and then they would stop, and then they would like shuffle and walk. It was like something was messing with you and trying to hide. And on this episode, they were filming a segment with Jack and Katrina. So I just took a walk in. I was like, hey guys, I'm going to go on like the second and third floor of the Mayflower building and just kind of walk around by myself. So as I'm walking around, I have my recorder and I'm walking around, and you hear like a slight distant noise, and then you hear me stop, like freeze in my tracks, and you can hear something walking, and then it stops, and then I freeze, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go, and then you hear me like walking out. And I usually don't do that during investigations, but it was really creepy. Like it did not feel good.
So wait, you were so creeped out. You're like, I'm out of here. Forget this. Yeah. Damn.
So I'm telling you, it is so scary there. It's so scary. And I've been like, it's probably one of the top places.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you've been through a lot of those places. So
yeah, I've been in a lot of like residential homes that are just
Waverly Hills. Right?
I've never been to Waverly Hills.
I thought you had, or
no,
Moundsville though.
Moundsville, yeah, West
Yeah,
Penitentiary.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, they do. You can book like overnight investigations there, and they have it set up. Every Halloween, they do like a haunted house attraction and tours. So if you guys ever get the chance to go there, it's definitely worth it. And I would go quick because it looks like the buildings are going to like.
They look like they're absolutely coming down hard.
Yeah, very lost and lonely souls there, I feel.
For sure.
Have you done the Queen Mary, Heather?
No.
Oh, Gordon, you got to do it. Tell her you have to.
You've done it?
You have to. You have to.
I did it.
It's obligatory now.
Oh, I've already told this story on the show. So is anybody?
Doesn't matter. You have to. She's got to
Okay.
hear this.
Okay.
This is
Tell me.
perfect. You got to hear this.
My daughter and my wife have kind of a mediumistic gifts, and I was trying to, not stifle them for my daughter.
Mhm.
At the time she was like 8 or 9, and so I booked this trip for an overnight at the Queen Mary, and we go and we do it, and there's lots of the kind of typical ghosty things with the shadows down by the pool and the child voices. And one of the things was, I think I kind of got targeted during the little ghost tour, and it hit me, and I got the same kind of aggro feeling like Jim did, that rage kind of feeling, right?
Mhm.
So it was targeting me specifically in the tour. And after we got done, you have to sleep there. I booked this room. It was going to be an overnight thing, and it's going to be fun, right? Just fun, just a whole lot of fun. And so in the middle of the night, I'm still freaking out, and my girls we're all crammed into this bed because we're all freaked out, but the girls fell asleep really quickly.
Mhm.
I did not. And as I'm sitting here in the bed, kind of freaking out, feeling that oppressive feeling, I felt like there was a mirror at the bottom of the bed, and I look at the mirror, and there's something crawling out of the mirror.
What?
And it was like, it looked like venom made of smoke. And it was like all teeth and smoke coming out of the window, or the mirror like that. And I'm doing the prayer, man. I am crying out to God. And all of a sudden there's these two beings on the side of the bed. And I'm freaking out about this thing. I'm freaking out about these guys in the bedroom. And his hand comes by and comes down and puts his hand on my chest. And I don't know if they actually said the words, "This is our job," but that was the impression I got, was that,
Wow.
this is our job, let us do our job. And it was like, as soon as he touched me, it was just like peace just come over me. And they just, boom, they just shoved that thing back into the mirror, and it all disappeared.
So leading up to it, you felt kind of more threatened, but then
Oh yeah, completely threatened, for
Interesting.
sure.
Now, what do you think that was? If you could,
Which
does it
part?
relate to anything? I'm not completely familiar with the history of it, but does it relate to any of the stories you've heard with like people that worked there or died there?
No, I don't. No, I don't think it. I think it's something that has been brought in and
Okay.
just kind of exists there. I think because people give it the attention, you give negative energies attention, they're going to propagate wherever they're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was welcome there, kind of like this place that you're talking about, where it becomes a perfect storm, where everybody gives it that negative attention. It builds its own thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And see, that was one of the things where Gordon, with those two figures or whatever, like you felt like they were like
It was
almost
angelic.
angelic,
say it's
yeah.
angelic.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was fascinating. Like protection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
I'll have to go
wild.
there someday.
I thought you'd been there. That's the
No. Mm-mm.
Hmm.
There's still a lot of places like famous place. Like I've never been to the Winchester Mystery House. I've never been there.
I've
Never
always
been
wanted
to
to go there.
Waverly. Bobby Mackey's I've never been to.
We're gonna have to go. We gotta go do that.
Have you ever been to Bisbee, Arizona?
No, but I know about it. And it's really funny. I'm going to Arizona next month. My two best friends and I are going on this just crazy like camping and hiking trip. We're going to go to Saguaro National Park. We're going to hike like the rim of the Grand Canyon. And we're going to go to
Saguaro?
Mesa, Sedona. What?
Saguaro?
Saguaro
Yeah,
National
did I
Park?
say it wrong?
Yeah, that's all
thought
right.
it was
My
Saguaro.
cousin.
All right.
No.
It's saguaro, but it's
Yeah.
it's right
Okay.
here.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out. So.
Sorry.
No, it's
Go
okay.
to-
I don't know how to speak English.
Make sure you go to Saguaro East because that's where all the dead bodies used to be buried.
Oh,
Write
okay.
it down.
So there's two parts of Saguaro National Park. There's the east side and the west side.
Mhm.
And the east side was kind of more protected. The west side was where all the 1%er bikers used to bury all the dead bodies, all
Ooh.
the meth heads and stuff. They would find when in the 80s and 90s, there were all sorts of bodies that would be dumped out there.
Oh, I have no idea about that. It's funny because I have the hiking guides for East and West.
Oh
So
yeah, there you
I'm
go.
really prepared.
That's it.
Wow, that's
Nice.
interesting. I'll have to look into that. Maybe we'll find a body on our hike.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
And some floaters, whatever.
Looks like human bones.
Right. So you got a couple more episodes coming up on Portals to Hell, and yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up?
I have some events, but so for Portals to Hell, I have May 1st is the Lake Shawnee episode, which in West Virginia, there is this amusement park that's no longer running, but it's built on top of an Indian burial ground. And it just has this history of all these like freak accidents with children. They see spirits of Indian warriors. They see spirits of a little girl. Like people have camped there and left in the middle of the night because they see an apparition of like a little girl hanging around this tractor. And there are a lot of like documented deaths. We found articles for with the children drowning in this pool. But when you go there, there's like still a really old Ferris wheel from like the 30s and 40s, and there's vines and trees growing up through it. And then there's an old giant wooden swing where like a little girl was swinging on it, and there was a soda truck and it backed up and she swung into the truck and died. So that's one of the little girls that we actually think we contacted in the episode. We got some pretty interesting activity with a REM pod by the swings, but that episode should be cool. And the whole Indian burial ground tie with it is that they were digging on the land because they were going to build something else onto the land. And they discovered like 13 skeletons. So they immediately called an archaeologist, and they came in and they discovered that there was like an Indian chief buried there from the Shawnee Indian tribe. And it was really interesting because they found artifacts and they had all that stuff there to show us. And it was like a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it basically like rewrote the history books in West Virginia because they realized the Shawnee Indians passed through this area. So it's really neat. It's like very fascinating history. And the activity we got on it was pretty cool. So that's the one that's on the 1st. And then on the 8th, we investigate this haunted hotel in Bakersfield, California called the Padre Hotel. And it has a history with people committing suicide off of the building because it was like the tallest building in Bakersfield. So that one's pretty cool too.
It's going to be fun then.
Yeah.
Definitely have to check them out. So for those of you out there, definitely tune in. Discovery Plus.
What's your favorite one?
Oh geez. I think the Lake Shawnee amusement park, because we stayed on the property in these RVs. We each had our own like separate RVs. And I had never driven like a 30-foot long RV before, and they trained me to drive it, and because they wanted to film us driving it to the location and like parking it. So that's really funny because I literally look like this little like action figure driving this gigantic RV. But yeah, we stayed on the property, and at night the fog would roll in and you just see this old decrepit Ferris wheel and the fog and the vines. It's really, really a creepy place.
This place sounds really intense.
And also too, the original settlers that occupied the land, there was a massacre where the Native Americans killed these like 3 children. So that's kind of where everything started with the history of the land. Very interesting.
Super intense. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And then you've got Paracons coming up as well, right? Do you have dates in front of you? You can spit out for people and like give out your links and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I have all these listed on my website, just heathertaddy.com, but
and we'll link all that up after the show.
In July, I'm doing an event with Chuck Sikowski called Para Unity. That's in Minnesota. We're going to put together like an alien highway presentation, and I'll be there. The biggest one at the end of August is called Michigan Paracon, and it kind of has like everybody from all the popular paranormal shows. That's going to be a fun one. I think Ben Hansen is at one of those from UFO Witness. You've probably seen that show.
The dude who works, the intelligence guy. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am doing an event with Chad at Malvern Manor again, but I'm not quite sure of those dates yet. I'm going to be at Mothman Fest in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is super fun. And there's more, I think. What am I missing? Oh, in December, there's an event in Vegas I think it's also called Paracon.
Let's just hope everything stays. I mean, I don't want to be like that, but dude, I just heard a bunch more cancellations about stuff in Milwaukee, and like that city of festivals, all like every weekend there's festivals, and they've canceled pretty much everything. I don't know what they're thinking and what people are thinking, but it's a joke. And because we're not going to reach herd immunity now. So
we just
whatever.
We just redefine what herd immunity is. So
exactly. Whatever.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Exactly. So whatever. Who knows?
Maybe things will be semi-normal.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Right. Let's hope. So seriously, because it's getting ridiculous. It's been ridiculous now for way too long. So, but this has been a blast.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you doing this again.
Mm-hmm.
So
totally. Yeah. And I'd love to come back and talk about the other episodes so you guys can come in.
We'll definitely have you back on regular. It'll be fun now that you're in. So that's good.
And I drank a lot of coffee before this, so I'm kind of like, next time I don't think I'm going to drink coffee because I can tell I'm like,
go play rock and roll. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. It's that time.
It's that time. So.
Isn't it? Yep. I think it is.
Almost. Yeah. It's almost time to play some rock and roll.
All right. Well, we're out of here.
Tell us about your band.
There you go.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I play bass in a band called Mannequin, and we're working on recording right now. And it's kind of a rock and roll, old school rock and roll, surfy. It's fun. Tell them what the
neighbors compared you to, or kind of sounded
like. Yeah, the neighbors were listening to us practice one day, and they thought it reminded them of the Talking Heads, which is like
that's pretty great.
Huge compliment.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'm into music. I heard you're into music too.
Me? Yes.
What do you play?
I derail everything with music talk. That's my
Yeah.
gear. That's my.
Hey, that works with me.
That's how this whole thing, So
Yeah.
this whole
This is
thing
how it
started,
started.
actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But everything, jazz, punk, metal, it's all good.
He's a bad brains junkie like you, Heather.
Oh, cool.
My
I
first
met
punk show.
HR once.
Oh, how was that?
It was very interesting. He played at this bar in Pittsburgh, and I'm telling you, it was the weirdest thing ever. My weirdest encounter with any human being. I walked into this bar and it was like the middle of winter, and he's just like full out winter garb, just like slouched over on this stool in this room, all alone, just like staring into space. And I just walked past him like, "Hey, buddy." And I was sitting with my friends and I was like eating a salad on the upper balcony of this bar. And he walks up the steps and meets someone beside me and starts talking to them. He's talking to them, but he has his hand on my shoulder the whole time, but he doesn't say anything to me. And it's just the weirdest experience. And then finally, my friend and I talked to him afterwards, but he's out there.
Yeah.
He's out there.
He just smile a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, that I talked to him once and
Did you?
it was just like that. It was like, yeah.
It was like
okay.
I was talking to a total alien.
Right? Completely.
I feel like I've had that with Cool Keith a couple times too at barbecues. I mean, that sounds like almost, well, no, kind of close though. Seriously, like you're just totally out there smiling, laughing, just like that. But
Well,
that's
we'll
cool.
have to have a segment next time where we talk more about music.
Oh yeah, more free
The whole
form.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whole show.
show.
Definitely.
I'm down with
Definitely. Sweet. All right, we're gonna get out of here.
that. Okay,
So,
thanks, guys. This was
Bye,
fun.
everybody
Thanks,
on
Heather. Good to
YouTube.
meet you.
Bye.
Everybody
Bye.
we live in your minds. Don't forget. And
Until
we're out of
then,
here.
We'll
We're
see
out
you
of
next
here.
time.
time.
Bye.
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 I swear, Mr.